Scott from American, and we also have John and Katie from Alaska. And just two more housekeeping things. So Jennifer is going to be manning the chat. I will be manning the Q&A. I will be stopping Teresa and Scott. I'll be interrupting them, so don't think I'm rude. I'm going to give them a 5-minute warning and then a wrap-up warning, and I'll do the same thing with John and Katie, because I know we have a lot of attendees. We want to make sure that we can answer as many questions as possible. But just know that, like I said, Jennifer and I will be manning the chat and the questions, and I'm sure Jim will be in there as well. So I'm going to go ahead and, Teresa?
Yes.
Pass it over. Teresa from American's going to get started. Do you want me to go to the next slide?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay. So you go ahead, Teresa. I'm going to start my timer.
That's fine.
And then whenever you're ready to share, I'll stop sharing.
Okay, that's great. So welcome everyone. I'm happy to be here. It's great to share with you how AU is incorporating Quality Matters standards into quality online course design by combining the Quality Matters framework with CourseArc content creation tool. Let me first share that AU is a private, mid-sized university in Washington, D.C., with over 14,000 students in undergraduate and graduate programs combined. I was first trained in Quality Matters over 8 years ago and began using the CourseArc tool about 4 years ago. And what stuck with me was how CourseArc was engineered as a collaborative tool with quality, accessibility, and ease of use in mind, and just how easy it was to incorporate Quality Matters standards into quality course design. So 2 years ago, I joined AU as an instructional designer for the School of Communication. Within those 2 years, my first year in particular, accessibility and flexibility were key conversations around online learning at AU. A year ago, we adopted CourseArc to create digital content for new course initiatives that allow us to provide students flexibility in additional formats in our campus programs. Integrating the CourseArc tool with our institutional LMS provides a pathway for collaboration among campus e-learning Blackboard team, campus instructional designers, and faculty who are seeking ways to create accessible and engaging learning content for their campus and online courses. Go ahead, Katie, you can share. Today, I'll share the course orientation for a brand new 14-week fully online course that was created and has rolled out this spring. In my presentation, I will largely show you the CourseArc view. Give me 1 second. I will largely be sharing the CourseArc view. And I will be honing in on the Quality Matters Course Overview and Introduction Standards 1.1 to 1.9. But as you'll see, you will see that there are overlap of standards in some areas. Okay. And lastly, if we have time, I'd like to share with you a unit content page that illustrates a simple example of accessible, engaging, and interactive content that drives learning concepts and helps students make learning connections. Okay. So I'm going to start right here in the CourseArc tool. And what I will do is I will show you certain pages of the orientation that will indicate what standards are actually being met here. And this is the QN standard 1.1, where the instructions make very clear to the student how they can get started and where they will find various components. And so I want to point out something right here, that we have a left side menu and we also have the left to right advancement. So in this direction to students right here, we use the interactive icon that the action is needed by the student and give them instructions on how to go forward. So what you'll also see here is I'm advancing their orientation by getting now into the course description. And again, this is actually hitting on the 1.2 QN standard. As I go forward, you will see that various course elements are highlighted with what standard of QM, which one of the quality QM standards is actually being adhered to in the orientation. So right here, learners are introduced to the purpose and the structure of the course and rather an overview. As we go forward, we'll see that a course instructor is being introduced. So the QM standard 1.8, the self-introduction by the instructor, as well as the alternative means here. You'll see the closed caption is available here. Also in the CourseArc tool, I'd like to mention that whenever students are given a direction to act, icons are used, and you will see that this one is the icon used for video. Also, this is more of a template that I wanted to demonstrate here. So in a master course, this would be something that would be copied and shared to the actual teaching professor, and that information would be completed. So in that sense, it's a collaborative tool. I will hopefully be able to tell you what all of this is to the right here as we get further into the presentation after I get through the demonstration of how the Quality Matters standards in the overview 1.1 and 1.9 are utilized. Okay, so we'll go in now into the discussions as we take a look at how the communication expectations for the online discussions, email, and other forms of interaction or communication are made very clear to the student. Okay, and from here we'll get into something else that fits along with that, which is netiquette. And for those that aren't familiar with the term netiquette, that just means online etiquette. Okay, also right now we will go forward into another 1.3, which is the learner expectations, learner participation and expectations, where this is laid out for the student. And all of this, once again, is a part of a getting started orientation that students take part of a week before the course starts. Okay, from here, we're going to go to policies on late work. We're going to talk about how this meets the Quality Matters Standard 1.4 criteria. Also right here, students are actually referred back to the scheduled due dates, which is now I'm in the Blackboard course. And you can see where the students are actually made very clear what the actual discussion due dates, the assignment due dates for the unit are. That is all a part of the orientation. All righty, let's go forward to the academic code, the academic integrity code. And we will see that this is the quality standard 1.4, where institutional policies are made very clear to the learner at the onset of the learning. And we'll go from here, we'll go to technology and support. And this is a big picture, in particular when you're in online learning. And you will see that there's a combination of the overview standards and also the standards for in the seventh area, which basically have to deal with technology and learner support. So you'll see that 7.1 is actually a part of this particular part of the orientation as well, and how all of the minimum technical specifications are all included there for the learner to have at their fingertips. Okay, and from here, we will go to getting to know you. So getting to know you is a standard that hits in line with how do learners walk into the social space of the online learning community. And so this is really an excellent requirement for an orientation, so students can actively become members of their community right away. Let's see where we'll go from here. Grading policy is an area that I'd like to point out to you that hits in line with the Quality Matters 3.2. And remember, I said on the onset, there would be some overlap from other areas. And so into the third standard, which deals with assessment and measurement. So the grading policy is something that is actually made clear to students in the orientation. And from there, we will go down to learner support. Okay, and right here, you'll start to see that this fits in line with the learner support QM standards in 7.3 and 7.4. Okay, and you'll start to see where the academic support services are actually listed here and ways to qualify and learn about disability accommodations in the institution. Okay, how am I doing on time?
Sorry, I was unmuted. You are at the 10-minute mark.
Okay, very good. I think what I'd like to do, Katie, is to ask you if anyone has any questions that you'd like to share now, and if not, I can go forward and actually show the one content unit.
Okay, so I have, we have a lot of questions here. I might not be able to answer all of them. So Kathy has a question. So you wanted to field this one before you go on. She had a question about getting to know you. She felt, she feels like some instructors, they don't really feel compelled to introduce themselves to the students in the forum. And she wanted to know if you had any suggestions.
Yeah,
like
well,
you guys do with American.
Right. Well, the suggestion I have is, I think what's really important here is, depending upon what your institutional practices are, there are some, I understand there are some faculty who don't prefer that. But I think that that is actually covered here, a self-introduction by the instructor. That's why I had the video format here. So if you are someone who does not want to do the video format, you can do audio, or you can go into your discussion forum, and you can, where the students actually, let's see if I can get into that here for you. So in this getting to know you, what could happen is that the professor can actually post their own introduction here through a discussion forum. Does that help answer the question?
Yeah, I have a couple other questions, Teresa.
Okay.
So one, I'm going to go ahead and answer this one live. So CourseArc is a tool right here, what you're looking at. This is the tool, this is the view where you're looking at the content. Teresa's in kind of editing mode and managing the content, but then also it's embedded directly in Blackboard. So the student would never go into CourseArc. So that was a question. The other one, this was a really good question from Sam. How do you ensure consistency across different online courses? And I think I'll start and then I'll let Teresa finish. I think her point is that this would be a model, and then any teacher, any instructor could take it and modify it. You want to elaborate on that, Teresa?
Well, I think that that's a very good point, Katie, and that's indeed it. I mean, I'm not sure whether you want to call it a model or a template. I think what's really great about developing this orientation this way, intentionally pointing out where the quality matter standards are incorporated, is a very helpful presentation to faculty members that you're working with, or even a team of instructional designers that you're working with, in particular if it's a program migration project. I hope that helps answer the question. Also, one of the things that I do is I have a spreadsheet. Some people use Smartsheet, some people will use Excel, but I actually have what looks like a RACI project management tool, where I have all the quality matter standards listed on the left side, and on the right side, who is accountable, who is responsible, and so forth for that part of the course design, if that makes sense, or course project. So putting those standards up front is what I would suggest is a very powerful way of having collaborative discussions with faculty and also the instructional design team. Are we ready to go forward?
Yep, you're on 13. I still have a lot of questions, but I don't think you need to stop and answer them. I'm addressing them right now.
Okay, so what I like to do is, when you're taking a look at a unit and you're working with a faculty member, now we're in the tool, okay? And I'm an instructional designer, and I can add a page, and each time I add a page, I'm adding one of these little rows here, these cascading rows. What I love about this is I've been in environments where you're driven by an instructional design lead who is working from the bottom level up, and it's very difficult because you're working from one unit to the next unit or one part of the unit to the next. This allows you to architect, to actually structure the entire unit up front. One of the beauties of CourseArc, now that I have time to show you this, is suppose I'm looking at this sequence and I don't want to keep this. I can move the sequence at any time just with the flip of that direction. And everything is real time. And also, not only can I, as an instructional designer, the faculty member can make these tweaks at any time, whether they have access to the Blackboard shell or not. So what I'd like to do, unless Katie, you have a question that you'd like to field?
No, we have quite a few people that want to see what it looks like in Blackboard.
Okay.
But if you don't have that set up embedded already.
I do have it set up in Blackboard. I could get into that right now. This is a live course, so I'm kind of very weary on ever doing that, but I will do it for the purpose of folks being able to see it.
They just want to see what the content looks like when it's embedded in Blackboard. Quite a few folks.
Have to see. I noticed that the unit that I wanted to demonstrate. Well, what I can do is I can demonstrate this. This is not the unit I really wanted to speak from, but I can give them what a view looks like. Okay.
That's perfect.
Okay.
I was trying to explain that writing in the answers, and it's difficult. So
and I'm glad that you asked me to do this, Katie, because one of the reasons I love CourseArc is because built into the system is this template where when a student comes into the page, they have the overview, they have the learning outcomes and the activities and the estimated time. This particular course is a 2-week unit. So when you see the number of minutes here, you'll see like 4 hours and 10 minutes. Usually when I'm developing a 1-week unit, it's roughly around 2 hours and 40 minutes or at the most. So when we take a look at this total number here, that's something to look at. So once again, this is very, very helpful to students when they get that view into a unit. One of the things that I wanted to close with is this. I wanted to show you just how the presentation of content in CourseArc is simple. Again, it's ease of use. And so in this particular content page, it's following what is, if you follow me on the left-hand side, where the instructor's taking a look at behavior theory, and in particular, the foundations for behavioral theory. And when we take a look at this page, what I wanted to point out represents what I feel is standard 8.3, where there's accessible text, images, files, documents on the LMS pages, and they meet the needs of diverse learners. So after the professor has provided content in the form of reading and other materials for understanding the theory, she's now taking a look at this and she's saying, okay, let's take a look at this basic part of what influences behavior, and it's the internal and external factors. Students briefly, and so if I'm a student who already has an understanding of what internal and external factors are, I see this content page, and quite frankly, I'm happy with just this. Okay, internal and external factors influence behavior. But if I'm a student who isn't necessarily someone who's had that work experience working out in the field and maybe wants to just really dig deeper, I can go into the hotspot and I can take a look at the criteria that fit into the external factors. And of course, I can do the same thing with the, external factors here. What I wanted to show was that for each one of the images that's in CourseArc, automatically generated, literally simultaneously, is an accessible alternative feature that allows, for example, someone who has learning impairment to take a look at the learning in a different way. So we're actually allowing students to go deeper in learning, giving them alternative ways. And then here's the self-check. So the self-check tool that I love with CourseArc allows you, students, in a very quick way, less than a minute, to say, okay, well, which one is people know the beliefs? Okay, people's knowledge and beliefs. Let me see. Oh, okay, check the latest move. I got it right. Okay, so let me just come here and try this one. Check the latest move. Correct. But what happens if I want to put self-efficacy? Oops.
Teresa, I'm going to 1 minute left, okay?
Okay. what happens if I want to put self-efficacy right here? I understand that that's incorrect. So this is just multiple ways of working with content to serve the diverse needs of learners. That's it for now.
Thanks, Teresa.
Sure.
Do you want to go ahead and stop sharing? And while John and Katie are getting set up, you guys have some great questions and I'm trying to keep up. A lot of people have asked about LTI and how LTI is just a dynamic connection, which means it just is completely easily embedded. Most LMSs support LTI. It's a newer standard. It replaced SCORM. If anyone has any questions about that, Jennifer, do you want to put your email in the chat? Jennifer, feel free if you're, I know someone asked about Sakai and D2L. We can show you what it looks like. American and Alaska both use Blackboard, but I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to try really hard to get all the questions answered. There's a lot in here, but I'm going to pass it off to Katie and John.
Great, thanks, Katie. And hello from Anchorage, Alaska. I'm here with John Farmer. We're instructional designers at the University of Alaska Anchorage, and I have just shared some facts from our UA webpage just to point out that we are quite different from American University. And thank you, Teresa, for really setting the stage for us. Quite independently, we did not plan together, but we really identified some different Quality Matters standards. So we're excited to share those with you. So I'm going to turn it over to John for a minute to tell you about our adoption of the tool, CourseArc.
Yeah, so we've had CourseArc right around about a year now. And one of the biggest things that we love about CourseArc is that it was originally thought with accessibility in mind, and it wasn't a backup plan. It was a really great tool for accessibility purposes, as well as creating engaging and interactive activity. And the other thing that we really like about it, especially since Alaska is a big place and there's a lot of rural communities, is that it doesn't require a lot of bandwidth to use CourseArc. And so with that, we actually extended our contract with CourseArc, I believe 3 to 5 years, I think. So it's just a really great tool that we're excited to show you.
Great, thanks, John. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing that. And John's going to share CourseArc as I talk about the Quality Matters standards that we initially thought of, primarily 3, 5, and 6, because of kind of those last things that Teresa was showing you, the built-in activities. So we were looking for a tool to improve student engagement, and CourseArc is a great tool for student content engagement. And reading from the annotation for Quality Matters Standard 5.1, it promotes the activities promote learner achievement of the objectives by actively engaging the learner with the course content. So we feel that CourseArc does a great job of that. Also, and the activities are varied to provide reinforcement. And so John is showing a few examples as I'm speaking. And also Quality Matters Standard 5.2, closely related, active learning. So learners are engaging in doing something. So they're discovering, they're processing, they're applying concepts and information. And these are all great examples that John is sharing.
Yeah, and there are a few other examples that I can go through. So to access all of the blocks available to you and all of the activities, you just go to edit this page. And if you scroll down, you're going to see add to content, and you're going to click add block. And there are over 30 different options to choose from for helping your students engage in the content. And I could go through all of these, but with time permitting, There's several to choose from. They're all great. Here's the quiz feature. So if you wanted to put in an assessment within CourseArc, you can do that, or put in a test within CourseArc. You're more than welcome to do that as well. That's just one of the amazing features of CourseArc, with over 30 different interactive activities that you can choose from. It's an amazing tool.
And thanks, John. So that leads us right into Quality Matters Standard 6, which is more about tools and technology. And CourseArc helps us meet that too. We were looking for a tool that would make it easy for faculty to incorporate multimedia. And you can see that CourseArc does that. We wanted something that would fit into our LMS, which is Blackboard, and you already have seen how that works quite seamlessly. And as John mentioned earlier, we have a lot of rural areas in our state, so low bandwidth was important as well. So Quality Matters Standard 6.2, promoting learner engagement and active learning with tools, and also 6.3, so using a variety of tools. So this is just one thing that we have added to Blackboard to be able to meet the standards for 6. John, did you want to add anything more to that?
You nailed it really well. Just a few things. One thing in particular is that the great thing about CourseArc is that if you have no experience with technology, it's very easy to learn this type of software and to be able to implement it within your own course with very little ease of use. And the great thing about it, again, is if you do make a mistake, CourseArc is right there to help you, and you can even go back to previous versions of pages that you've edited and adjusted, and it truly is just an amazing tool that's designed to help you help your students.
Great, and I see someone asked, I saw a question pop up about accessibility, and that's what we were going to go to next. So we chose this tool over competitors because of the accessibility being built in. There's no need for additional tools to check accessibility. And so looking at Standard 8 from Quality Matters, one of them is consistent navigation. So you've seen that when Teresa was sharing and when John is sharing. John, maybe you could scroll up just a little bit to show that navigation at the top, very, very top left. Yeah, so that just makes it really easy. Also, faculty build their content right into CourseArc. So instead of having attached Word documents and PDFs that you have to worry about the accessibility of, they're using HTML, which is accessible. They're putting the text right into the tool. And also, as Teresa and John both demonstrated, there are some alternative formats for the activities. Those are automatically generated, so there's nothing that you have to do to make that happen. Another thing from Standard 8 is readability, and that is a theme. So we are green and gold, those are our colors, and CourseArc created a theme for us, and that really helps us with the Standard 8 as well, because of the consistency and making sure that the colors contrast on all of the buttons. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, it's Jennifer. I just had an accessibility question come in. And he or she is asking if you can show maybe the transcript. You're able to do that, that accessibility feature? Okay, cool. And they also asked if you happen to look into Blackboard Ally and compare with CourseArc.
Well, we use Blackboard Ally, but it's totally separate. We use them both because we work on CourseArc. We know that it's going to be accessible. I mean, there are some things that faculty need to follow as well as they put things into CourseArc, and actually CourseArc has a great learning module for faculty to make sure they understand those things. But then as we put this into Blackboard, we know that this part is already accessible. We still use Blackboard Ally for those other pieces of the course that maybe aren't, where CourseArc is not being used. We absolutely use Blackboard Ally in addition. Is that clear? I mean, we don't need to use it for CourseArc, but we need to use it for everything but CourseArc.
Yeah, I got you. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
And the other nice thing is that this theme was created by CourseArc, but you can customize your own theme to fit your college or your department as well. And CourseArc is also another great partner because they're more than willing to review your theme and make sure that it is, if you are uncomfortable with accessibility, they're more than welcome to make sure that your theme is in fact accessible. And so it's just a great partnership that we have with CourseArc with monitoring themes. And the other thing is that it does check for spell checks, other styles such as formatting and headings. It has those built into the system as well. So once again, accessibility was crucial when we looked at it, and CourseArc basically checks all the boxes for us in terms of accessibility and usability for that matter too.
Great, thanks for those details. John is the expert on CourseArc, and it actually again brings us right to another standard which I identified in looking through the Quality Matters standards with CourseArc in mind, and that is standard 4.5 about instructional materials. So accessibility is part of universal design for learning, and using CourseArc to create materials for your course. So you can see that it has text and other multimedia, and so that helps us meet standard 4.5. A variety of instructional materials are used in the course. I already mentioned standard 3, which is assessment, and of course those different blocks can be used for a variety of types of assessments as well as activities. And again, CourseArc helps us make sure that there are varied ways that students are being assessed. So those are two others. Did you want to add anything to that, John?
Yeah, just so I did briefly show the quiz block, so you can treat that as an actual test, but there's also other activities that you can grade your students on, and you can monitor their progress. And whenever you go into the grading feature through Blackboard, you'll be able to see what pages your students have interacted with, what content they've interacted with, what the grades are that they received. So it's a really great tool that can truly benefit you in terms of grading and how much time they actually spent on each page and how long they spent on interacting with the activities.
So the last one that we identified is the one that Teresa has already spent some time. So John, why don't you share, he created a learner support module that could be used by any faculty member here at the University of Alaska Anchorage with all of our specific information. So making that available for faculty to be able to plug into their course can help you meet standard 7, as Teresa talked about. Ours looks a little different than hers, but just to show you another way that it could be done.
And this page right here is more than our faculty can just reach out to us, and we'll be more than happy to put it into their Blackboard course wherever they would like it. So
those are the Quality Matter standards we identified. So I think we probably just have another a time for questions. So I'll turn it over to, I guess, Katie, and see if we can answer any questions.
Yeah, that's good, because there are a lot of questions that so I'll start, and maybe, between you and Teresa and John, you guys can jump in if you want to add. So a lot of people had questions just in general about LTI. So I'll try to explain it as best I can, and then if you guys want to help, let me know. So LTI is a standard way to integrate online content. Again, it was developed when the cloud came into being to replace SCORM. It's from IMS Global. Just turning on my video. So yes, it's very easy to integrate. So what happens, and some of you guys might already have this and you don't know it, like if you're using a plagiarism tool or proctoring tool or any of those are probably integrated through LTI. So your admin, and yes, we work with any LMS that supports LTI, and all of the big ones do. And we can show you what it looks like. So the admin would create the connection, and then anyone who has access to the LMS then can pull in content. I had a couple follow-up questions on that. So one person asked about grading. We have a lot of flexibility with grading. You can pass scores to the LMS. When you build content in CourseArc, you build it in chunks, and you really are able to define how you want to, whatever a chunk is. It might be a page, it might be a lesson, it might be a course, it might be a professional training module for staff. So you can determine the size of that chunk, and if you want grades passed, you can decide, you know, how many points you want, and all of that is tracked and sent automatically. So when a student, for example, the matching that John and Katie just showed you on with Normandy, when a student finishes that, their score is sent. The teacher doesn't need to do anything. So the other question was, a lot of people wanted to know, Teresa, if those QM standards were hidden in the teacher view, and I said,
Yeah.
you just added them for the purpose of today.
Yes,
They
as a
wouldn't
matter
be
of
there.
fact, thanks, Katie. I actually copied the course and I put a different title on it because I have a whole catalog or repository of all the courses. And so, yeah, I separated this from the active live course, and in doing so, just for the demonstration purposes. So no, I would never put those standards up there. But honestly, since I've already created this, I might use this as a training opportunity or training tool when working with faculty.
Okay, that's great. So another question was, a lot of people wanted to know if a lot of people asked the same question. And Jennifer, maybe you could start taking a look at the questions while I'm talking, just FYI. They wanted to know if there was some kind of crosswalk between, you know, if you use CourseArc, how it helps with the QM standards, or someone else asked if the QM standards were built into CourseArc. So they're not, we don't have the standards built in. I mean, we can't do that for copyright reasons. But obviously Jim and I could talk, we could definitely do a crosswalk. There are a lot of things that, you know, like they said, Katie and John and Teresa talked about, you know, just ease of use and the navigation that is built dynamically for the teachers. A couple other things, you know, like there's a properties box on every single page. So as your content creators, whoever that is, instructional designers, faculty are building content, they can put time estimates in, and it will automatically calculate an estimate. Someone had asked about where those time estimates come in. Those really are just based on whoever is developing the content. So that is done automatically. And I know that's one of the, I can't remember what standard off the top of my head, but, you know, informing the learner what they need to do, what's expected of them, what is graded. So someone asked about that. I'm trying to think.
Katie, I wanted to say something.
Yep.
I think what's really, really important is the orientation to the learner and setting up the learning especially for new students coming in online, which was the case for many of the students that in the course that I just finished creating and showed today. You really need to be very careful to really peel back all those layers of what you know. And that's where working with Quality Matters standards is extremely helpful, because it is a checklist of what do I need to have very transparent to students on the front end piece. And Katie and I have talked about this before. While it is a common standard practice to upload one syllabus, the reality of the situation is, in any LMS, your syllabus in a file, whether it's PDF or Word, needs to be accessible. One of the beauties of laying out the course the way that the orientation was laid out that I showed you is that in maybe forward thinking ways, you can actually extrapolate all the information on a syllabus and put that in the orientation, and thus that is fully accessible. Katie, one other thing I was thinking of too is that if I'm not mistaken, CourseArc already has built in the WCAG 2.0 AA standard. Is that something you can speak to?
Yes, I mean, our tool is relatively new. We've been around for 5 years. So every single thing that we've done, we've developed with accessibility in mind from the beginning. So I know someone had asked a question about Ally. I think the biggest difference is Ally is there to detect problems that exist, and we try to develop so you don't have any problems. So, you know, I know they showed you some example, but any drag and drop activity, it doesn't matter what anyone says, you cannot guarantee that it's accessible. So anyone that can't use a mouse or they need to use a keyboard, we ensure that there's an automatically generated accessible version. So it doesn't matter if you're looking at a graph or it's a matching or whatever. So, and what we're trying to do with the tool is get people to move away from some of the tools that are most problematic. Word documents, PowerPoint, PDFs, those are really, really hard to make them accessible. It's not impossible, but it's hard. And they also just are notorious for being bigger in terms of file size. So it also, if they develop in our tool, it just makes it really easy for pages to load and to really help with the bandwidth issues. Someone else had a question that was about, they said, does it get complicated to manage? The way that, like if you have multiple sections and then you repeat, you have multiple sections in the spring, like how do you manage all that? LTI just makes it really easy. So the way it works is let me just see if I can share my screen here. So I have one chunk of content. Let's see. Can you guys see my screen? Okay. Jennifer, someone let me know if you guys can see it. Okay,
Yes.
just want to make sure. So you have one chunk of content, and then through LTI, like since we've built it with that standard, it knows, okay, I'm in Blackboard. This is a chunk of content. I'm only going to be showing in this view students that are in this course, and if anyone that has a student role will show up on my progress and performance dashboard. And the instructor then has rights to see that, and all of that passes to the gradebook. So you could theoretically, like in Teresa's example or John's, if they created a model syllabus, so maybe it doesn't have all of the particulars for the course, but it has all of the generic stuff, like your academic integrity, tech support, all of that stuff. They could create one module and that could be embedded in 500 courses. Because it's only going to show up in those courses. And the nice thing about that, the beauty of it is two things. One, you can quickly manage it. So if there's anything that needs to be updated or tweaked, you update it in CourseArc one time, and anywhere that link is, that LTI link, it's updated. So it's just great for management, high quality, the revision process. And then of course, the second thing is, God forbid, you need to change your LMS. You don't need to rebuild it or go through the pain of migration. You would just repoint, like they showed you guys what it looked like in Blackboard. This is what CourseArc content looks like embedded in Canvas. So I just wanted to mention that. I'm trying to think of what else I have not been looking at. There's a lot of questions that were really hard to answer. People had questions about assessments. Teresa or John, Katie, do you guys want to, there's a lot of assessments that are built into CourseArc. I know a lot of people use other tools. So we really try to make it work. So you can embed stuff in CourseArc. And then of course you could, I'm in the Canvas view here, but you could obviously, you could obviously have, this is a CourseArc link right here, but you could have other things built. Do you guys want to speak to how you use assessments at all, Katie or John? Or I think some people also build assessments into the LMS, some of the high stakes if they have a tool.
Katie, what I often do is on the content page, and I can't show this because when you're speaking, I'm locked out of the visual part because the video. So I know someone had made a comment that whoever is speaking, can you please show your video? But I couldn't get in there to show that. So can you hide your video and I'll try to see if I can show this?
Yep, I will stop sharing and I'll hide my video.
Okay.
You should be good now. And we still have 10 minutes, right, Jim?
Yes.
I
Teresa,
can't grab the video.
How about now?
Maybe now, let's see. Okay, so let's see if I can show this to you. So first of all, what I do is I always present the assignments on the content page in CourseArc. Let's see if I can get into here. I also, before I go any further, I also have so the submission is through the LMS, right? The submission is not through CourseArc. But on the CourseArc page, for example, and students want to, so here's the final project. It's a social marketing strategy, right? So there's the criteria here for what the assignment is. Students are referred to the assignment in Blackboard right here.
Are you sharing your screen, Teresa?
I thought I was. Hold on one second. Sorry about that, Jim.
It's okay. Now you go. There you go.
Okay, thank you. So here's the final assignment that talks about the social marketing strategy, which everything is built up to this point. And right in here, students will always have the icons to the submission for the assignment description and the portal. So in Blackboard, it's built in. Each assignment is described once again, and the submission portal is right underneath, right here. And so when someone is wanting to know about assignments, it's actually going through the LMS, not through CourseArc, the submission. And therefore, it's hitting the Grade Center that way. If that's helpful in answering that question.
Yeah, and then I was just going to say, we also have tools within our product. We have several clients that know that they're about to go through an LMS RFP, and they are pretty sure they're going to be changing. So we have a lot of clients that build the assessments directly into CourseArc. We have a writing block. Someone else asked, like what kind of activities that we have. I know Jennifer responded, she can send you information about the list of blocks, but I also just wanted to mention that we add at least one new block every quarter. And 9 times out of 10, it's based on a request from a client. So we try to really be innovative, and we're continually adding new features to the platform. Just trying to think, just trying to see if there's any questions here that are really easy. So one person asked, would it be possible to flag courses that simply lack QM standards? I might need a little, I'm assuming you mean flag courses in CourseArc that lack standards. That's
Katie, one of the things I'm thinking of is the view of who's involved in a course from a course leader. I'm not sure you've shown that view.
I haven't. That's a good question.
And I think that kind of starts to answer that question of who's the course reviewer, who's the course lead, and of course, institutionally, what is your policy for the quality of your online course, online design of your courses. And so I can't speak to other institutions, but that is an institutional question. I'm sure Jim and the folks at Quality Matters can talk a lot about what makes a Gold Star course and all of that. I don't have that program here at AU yet, but it is something to strive for. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'll have Jim talk about that, but we obviously can't, we try to provide the tools to facilitate great course development. And like I said, a big piece of that is collaboration. So we have roles, and you can put people in with different roles, and they can have different roles in different courses. So for example, Katie and John could be a reviewer for a commenter for maybe one of Teresa's courses, and then they could be a course leader. We also have an approver role. So we try to really build all of the tools in for collaboration within the context of CourseArc. So when you log into a page, let's say like I'm an instructional designer and I'm responsible for training because we've gotten a letter and we haven't been doing things properly, I can go in and see, the status of all the pages. I can approve them if I have that role. And then I also, on every page, you can assign tasks and there's commenting, and we have resolving. So we try to have, we've tried to really build, you know, like what I talked about in the beginning, like the management, because I mean, what's so important, what I think, I mean, all of you guys already know, because I'm assuming most of you are instructional designers, what makes the content great is feedback, you know, ongoing feedback, making sure that you're doing the peer review and other things that are going to make sure that it's really high quality. Does that answer the question? Just trying to think. So a couple people asked about like CourseArc versus SoftChalk, CourseArc versus a couple other products, Articulate, other things. I'm happy to follow with more information. I think like the easiest way that I explain it is our product is built for an organization, for teams, organizations, and a lot of the other products that I think have been referenced are built for individuals. So we really tried to create something that would be an instructional designer's dream, you know, to really help you. So we have the, you know, all the tools that you would need, the ability to create the theme. So someone who's building content can't mess with the colors. They have good color contrast, version control, commenting. Like I said, the overview page where I talked about the time and all of that is built dynamically. And then all of that's tracked in the LMS. All right.
Do you mind if I add a little bit to that comment, if that's okay?
Yeah. Yep.
All right, great.
And this is John.
Yeah, I'm sorry. This is John. I'm sorry. I think one of the things we also use Articulate Storyline as well. And I must say that we do enjoy Articulate Storyline, but it's not very user-friendly. So if an instructor who wants to get in and dive into their course and design it with not having a very strong background in technology, they're going to really struggle with Articulate Storyline, whereas CourseArc, they won't. They're not going to struggle near as much as they will with Articulate Storyline. So as much as I enjoy Storyline, I will say CourseArc is a lot more user-friendly.
Hey, John, it's Teresa. I did want to also say to you, that was one thing I was thinking about as I was thinking about this presentation here today, that very simple illustration of what are the factors that influence behavior was exactly a simple type of graphic that can drive the concept. And a lot of times your big tools like Articulate and others were developed by software developers, and they're way too robust for the needs of getting the point across. And so I also have used those tools, and I have found that the usability of CourseArc, in particular for faculty who are not instructional designers, is a really great hand and tool.
So I know that there's a lot of questions that haven't been addressed. I'll stay on and try to you know, at least give you guys contact information to follow up. Jim, do you want to do a wrap up? We have 2 minutes
Yes,
left.
I know we have 2 minutes left. I wanted just to thank everybody. Let me thank everybody for coming. And I just did have one additional slide. And if I can get, this is always if I can get to that point and say, you know, we always love social media. So if you can tweet out what you have, if something you've learned today, make sure to tag the QM program and CourseArc. That would be great. And I appreciate everyone coming. So thank you very much.
And I'm going to hang on, Jim, and try to answer, you know, as much as I can.
Perfect. And I'll stay on to keep the recording going, and then people can drop off as they need to. So if you, should I give it back to you?
Sure. Or
I'll keep my video
I
going.
do have a question, Jim.
Yes.
A lot of people asked about QM standards and the crosswalk with CourseArc. Maybe you and I can follow up.
Yeah, I think that would be good.
Okay.
And maybe add Brenda to that conversation too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Katie, I'm going to sign off unless there's something you need to speak with me about.
No, bye. Thanks, guys.
Oh, thank you, Katie. Thanks, Jim.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye,
Thank
John.
you.
Bye, Katie. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Teresa.
Hi, y'all.
Katie.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
People were asking about continuing education or certificate. We don't have anything to share with that. I don't know, Katie, there's not really you don't have a continuing education certificate or anything like that for this webinar, do you? I know we do.
Do I?
Yeah, I don't think so.
No, how would I get one?
Yeah.
I don't. Sorry.
Probably no reason for me to keep my video going. And I guess I'll say to I don't think there's any reason to continue live captioning either. So I will say thank you for the live captioner, and you can be excused as well. So thank you very much. Yeah, there's not a certificate of attendance or verification sent. We will send out a recording. I know some people use this as part of their continuing and professional education credits, but we don't have anything.
Okay, so Jim, I do have a question here and we can follow up with
Oh.
Brenda, but quite a few people asked about the QOLT instrument, and like Neelam, I don't know if this person is still on, but they had asked, you know, if we could identify not just a crosswalk, but how many points you would achieve by using the tool. Maybe that's got to be a.
Yeah, I think QLT is another quality standards out of California. That's their quality online learning and teaching out of California State University, which people are more than happy to use.
I'll have to look at that.
Yeah, I think that would probably be something that you guys might want to take a look at.
Okay, I'm writing that down. Okay, I'm down to 11 questions.
Yeah, one, will it be possible to flag courses that simply lack QM standards on a site?
That would be pretty technically hard.
Yeah.
And I know if anyone's still on, I know Jennifer might have told you to email her. So just as long as you email either one of us at CourseArc,
Yep.
We will get back to you.
There's still about 38 people.
I know. I'm trying to answer these as quick as possible.
I'm going to stop the recording.